At the boundary of day and night, there's a light both radiant and cold, as if it could never warm the heart. Why does Journey Under the Midnight Sun weave a murder case into the tragedy of two souls, leaving countless readers in tears and awe? Let's step into Keigo Higashino's world to explore how Ryoji Kirihara and Yukiho Nishimoto craft a symphony of fate on the edge of sin and redemption. Ground: the undercurrents of Japan's bubble economy. Keigo Higashino's Journey Under the Midnight Sun, published in 1999, emerged during Japan's lost decade after the bubble economy's collapse. It was an era of money worship and hollowed hearts, where the middle class's dreams shattered amid soaring housing prices and unemployment. As Higashino once said in an interview, "I wanted to depict the true face of humanity in extreme circumstances." Set in Osaka, the novel spans the late 1970s to the 1980s, portraying a society torn by desire and indifference. Japan's economic boom masked deep societal cracks. Sociologist Takanori Fujita noted that during the bubble era, social mobility stalled, trapping children of low-income families. The story begins with the death of Ryoji's father, Yosuke Kirihara, found in an abandoned building, a seemingly simple case that sows the seeds of sin. With a cool pen, Higashino captures Osaka's gritty streets, cramped izakayas, noisy arcades, and rundown pawnshops, reflecting the struggles of the underclass. This setting not only shapes the characters' fates but lays the foundation for the story's tragedy. The bubble economy's rise and fall deeply influences the narrative tone of Journey Under the Midnight Sun. 1980 seconds Japan was a glittering feast on the surface, but beneath lay a crumbling trust in society. Ryoji and Yukiho's childhoods were warped in this environment. They weren't born evil but were pushed into an abyss by domestic violence, poverty, and indifference. Through subtle details, Higashino shows how society silently erodes humanity. For instance, the shady dealings at Ryoji's family pawnshops symbolize money's corrosion of morality. Yukiho's mother's coldness reflects the collapse of family bonds. This social backdrop is not just a stage but a force driving the characters' fates. Ryoji and Yukiho's symbiotic relationship mirrors the marginalized souls in Japan striving to break free. They aren't traditional villains but prisoners of circumstance and destiny. Like Higashino's exploration of hatred's roots and malice, Journey Under the Midnight Sun turns its lens on deeper social ills, wealth gaps, domestic abuse, and moral decay. Osaka in the novel is both their sanctuary and their cage. This setting compels readers to not only seek the case's truth, but also ponder how society shapes individual destinies. The bubble's collapse brought not just economic hardship but tore at Japan's psychological fabric. Sociologist Tatsushi Ukeda noted that the lost decade bred collective hopelessness, especially among the underclass, fostering distrust and uncertainty. Ryoji and Yukiho's childhoods embody this despair. Their families, strapped for cash and devoid of warmth, led to their extreme reliance on each other. Psychologist Miwa Yokoyama, in Childhood Trauma and Personality Formation, notes that children lacking security often form symbiotic bonds to face external threats. Ryoji and Yukiho's bond is an extreme example. Ryoji sacrifices himself to pave Yukiho's path, while Yukiho controls Ryoji for psychological security. This relationship is both the root of their tragedy and a reflection of the alienation in post-bubble Japan. Characters and fate. Lightborn in darkness. The heart of Journey Under the Midnight Sun is Ryoji and Yukiho's symbiotic bond. Like two sides of a coin, one lurks in shadow, the other shines in light, yet they can never truly embrace. Higashino writes, "They walk only in the midnight sun, each the other's sole light." This line not only explains the title but reveals their bond, intimate yet distant, dependent yet destructive. Ryoji Kirihara, the shadow in the dark. Ryoji's childhood was shattered by his father's sins and his mother's coldness. His father's pawnshop hid dirty dealings, and his mother drove him to deeper despair. In the novel, Ryoji kills his father not out of hatred but to protect Yukiho, a turning point in his fate. From then on, his life orbits Yukiho, as he willingly becomes her shadow, clearing her obstacles. Each crime Ryoji commits, from forging evidence to murdering witnesses, is a silent sacrifice. Ryoji's image evokes real-world marginalized figures. Sociologist Masahiro Yamada, in The Hope Divide Society, describes young people from the underclass, lacking education and resources, turning to extreme measures. Ryoji is their epitome, adept at computers and disguise, yet using his talents only for Yukiho, never himself. In 1990s Japan, needs youth not in education, employment, or training included figures like Ryoji, abandoned by society yet striving to prove their worth. Take Miwasato, an Osaka native who dropped out due to poverty and turned to crime to support her family, only to end up in prison. Ryoji's choices, more extreme, echo this same helplessness and struggle. His loyalty and sacrifice are both his redemption and his tragedy. He's not a cold-blooded criminal but a soul twisted by childhood trauma and societal pressure. Each act tries to create a shadow-free world for Yukiho, yet sinks him deeper into darkness. Through Ryoji, Higashino reveals the complexity of humanity in extreme conditions, both perpetrator and victim, protector and destroyer. Yukiho Nishimoto, the Mask of Light. Unlike Ryoji's concealment, Yukiho strides gracefully in the light. Rising from childhood shadows, she becomes a social star. Higashino's nuanced portrayal shows her as both victim and manipulator. Her beauty and intellect let her navigate business and marriage with ease, but each success hides Ryoji's bloody cost. Yukiho's attitude toward Ryoji remains ambiguous. She never declares love, yet her actions sustain their bond. Yukiho recalls the new women of Japan's bubble era. Historian Masanori Nakamura notes that 1982 Japanese women sought independence, yet society still tied their value to marriage and looks. Yukiho's rise both conforms to and subverts these expectations. She uses her beauty and wit to climb, but cannot escape her childhood wounds. Her ruthlessness contrasts with Ryoji's loyalty, yet together they form the paradox of the midnight sun, light and dark, interdependent yet trapped. Consider Rina Yamaguchi's pseudonym, a Japanese entrepreneur who rose from clerk to executive in the bubble era, her success masking compromises with family and morality. Yukiho's path mirrors this, an elegant facade hiding inner scars, using societal rules to achieve goals, yet lost in solitude. Each of Yukiho's smiles is a defiance of fate and a mask for her heart. Junzo Sasagaki, the lone truth seeker. As the detective investigating the case, Junzo Sasagaki represents the pursuit of truth. Nicknamed Old Fox, his sharp instincts sense Ryoji and Yukiho's secrets, yet he never secures solid evidence. Sasagaki's persistence recalls Yasuhisa Nakamura, a Japanese detective who spent 20 years chasing a serial killer, retiring without success due to insufficient evidence. Sasagaki's failure stems not from skill but from the complexity of human nature. His final reflection, "They walk as if in the midnight sun," summarizes the case and laments humanity. Sasagaki is more than a detective. He's a witness. He sees Ryoji and Yukiho's crimes and their pain. His pursuit, like chasing light in fog, ends in accepting the truth's ambiguity. His powerlessness evokes those in Japan fighting injustice but hitting walls, like reporter Kazuya Matsuda's pseudonym, who exposed Osaka corruption but gave up due to lack of evidence. Sasagaki's persistence and compromise reflect the limits of individuals in a complex society. Reiko Karasawa, the silent compassion. Yukiho's adoptive mother, Reiko Karasawa, knows her secret but chooses silence. This isn't cowardice but a complex love for her adopted daughter. Reiko's image mirrors Japanese women who endure silently under family and societal pressure. Family therapist Yumi Takahashi notes that many Japanese women hide domestic abuse to protect their children. Reiko's silence is both protection for Yukiho and a surrender to unchangeable reality, adding a layer of compassion to Yukiho's facade. Secondary characters like Ryoji's mother, Yaewa Kirihara, and Yukiho's first love, Eriko Kawashima, are also significant. Yaewa represents extreme familial neglect, her indifference and selfishness twisting Ryoji's psyche. She evokes Japanese parents in the 1970s and 1980s who, under economic strain, neglected their children's emotional needs, as noted by child psychologist Ken Sato. Yaewa's coldness is both a personal flaw and a product of societal pressure. Eriko, a pure victim, trusts and loves Yukiho only to become a pawn in her fate. Higashino uses Eriko's tragedy to show how the innocent get swept into sin's vortex. Her presence highlights Yukiho's ruthlessness and reminds us that in a world of deceit, purity is the most fragile casualty. Real-world parallels exist in 1990s Japanese school bullying cases, where innocent teens were harmed by tangled relationships, mirroring Eriko's fate. Themes and symbolism. The Human Maze in the Midnight Sun. The title Journey Under the Midnight Sun carries deep symbolism. The midnight sun, a polar phenomenon where day and night blur, represents Ryoji and Yukiho's existence, caught between light and dark, unable to fully belong to either. This imagery runs through the novel, key to its themes. The cycle of sin, a wheel of fate. The novel's structure spans the 1970s to 1990s, with Ryoji and Yukiho's crimes snowballing. Higashino's non-linear storytelling reveals how childhood trauma fuels their tragedy. Ryoji's patricide, Yukiho's manipulative marriages, and their joint cover-ups form an inescapable cycle. Like Gabriel Garcia Marquez's cyclical fate in 100 Years of Solitude, Higashino shows how sin reverberates between individuals and society. Sociologist Shinji Miyadai notes that post-bubble Japan's trust collapse pushed individuals to extreme survival tactics, like the 1990s compensated dating trend. Yukiho's childhood echoes these women, forced to choose between morality and survival. Ryoji and Yukiho's crimes are an extreme outcome of this trust deficit, each choice tightening their chains, leading to ruin. Social critique. Cracks in class and morality. Journey Under the Midnight Sun is both a personal tragedy and a sharp critique of Japanese society. The bubble era's prosperity hid class rigidity and moral decay. Yukiho's success relies on exploiting and subverting social rules. Ryoji's sacrifices reflect the underclass's despair in an unfair world. Higashino writes, "She climbs over others' corpses, always with an elegant smile." This describes Yukiho and skewers the era's ethos. The novel's critique remains relevant today. In 2020's Japan, the low-desire society sees youth lying flat amid housing and job pressures, with some, like a 2021 Tokyo criminal, turning to crime out of economic despair, echoing Ryoji. This highlights that social inequity strips not just wealth but dignity and hope. Compared to Chinese literature's To Live, Journey Under the Midnight Sun lacks Fugui's resilience, instead exposing society's cruelty. While Fugui finds meaning in suffering, Ryoji and Yukiho seek redemption in sin. This contrast reflects Chinese literature's focus on endurance versus Japanese literature's dive into humanity's shadows. Through Ryoji and Yukiho, Higashino asks, where is the line of morality in a cold world? Emotional bonds. Unspoken love. Ryoji and Yukiho's bond is the emotional core of Journey Under the Midnight Sun. Never voicing love, they sustain a lifelong tie through actions. Ryoji commits crimes for Yukiho. She keeps his secrets. This recalls Trevor's themes of money and love as cages. Psychologist Mika Yamamoto notes that trauma victims often rebuild security through extreme dependence. Ryoji and Yukiho's bond is this dynamic writ large, a love that's both salvation and destruction. Psychologically, their bond is a trauma bond, per Patrick Carnes, where shared trauma creates mutual reliance. Their childhood abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault forged this unhealthy tie. Ryoji finds purpose in Yukiho's crimes. She gains control through him. This isn't conventional love but a survival strategy. A real-world case from 2010's Japan saw siblings, scarred by childhood abuse, mirror this. The brother hid the sister's crimes. She climbed socially through marriage, ending in tragedy. Ryoji and Yukiho's bond is more intricate, both savior and curse. Higashino explores how love warps in extreme settings, both a lifeline and an abyss. Midnight sun imagery. The paradox of light and shadow. The midnight sun imagery symbolizes Ryoji and Yukiho's state. Ryoji paves Yukiho's path in darkness. She hides truths in light. Higashino writes, she walks in daylight, he hides in night. They never meet under the same sky. Slight shadow contrast is both narrative and metaphor for humanity's complexity. Their fate blurs good and evil, leaving readers to ponder, are they victims or villains? This imagery shapes the novel's structure, with multi-perspective narration hiding truth in fog. Readers, like Sasagaki, piece together fragments but never see the full picture. This ambiguity is the Midnight Sun's literary echo, reminding us that human truth is rarely clear-cut. Narrative craft. Suspense and the abyss of humanity. Higashino's narrative skill is a cornerstone of Journey Under the Midnight Sun's allure. Using suspense as a shell, he peels back layers of human and societal complexity. Multi-perspective narration. Fragmented truth. The novel uses multiple viewpoints to unravel Ryoji and Yukiho's secrets. Sasagaki's investigation offers external clues. Yukiho's social circle reveals her facade. Ryoji's covert actions hint at his sacrifice. This lets readers hunt for truth like a puzzle, never fully assembling it. Higashino said in an interview, "I want readers to seek answers in the fog, not be spoon-fed truth." Like 100 Years of Solitude's non-linear tale, Higashino's fragmented narration deepens suspense and themes. Detailed depiction, blending grit and humanity. Higashino's vivid details Osaka's rundown pawnshops, dim alleys, bustling arcades ground the story in reality. These settings symbolize the characters' fates. The pawnshop's dim light reflects family decay. Yukiho's poise in upscale restaurants hides her cold heart. Documentary filmmaker Tatsuya Mori captured similar Osaka underbelly scenes, mirroring Higashino's world. These details pull readers into a familiar yet alien realm, feeling fate's unpredictability. Pacing mastery, balancing suspense and emotion. Higashino's pacing is masterful, starting with a murder and weaving past and present, each chapter dropping new clues while leaving gaps. This keeps readers hooked on the truth while drawn to the characters' emotions. Ryoji's evidence-forging scenes are tense yet reveal his devotion. Yukiho's cold smiles in social settings are both admirable and chilling. This echoes The Godfather's balance of violence and emotion, with Higashino blending suspense and philosophy. Higashino's engineering background and 1980 seconds literary debut during the bubble's peak shaped his logical yet socially attuned style. Unlike Haruki Murakami's focus on inner consciousness, Higashino probes social realities through crime, peaking in Journey Under the Midnight Sun. His cool prose and emotional depth make the novel both literary and accessible. Real-world reflections from Midnight Sun to self-examination. Journey Under the Midnight Sun's power lies not just in its gripping plot but in its insights into humanity and society. Ryoji and Yukiho's story is a mirror reflecting social inequity, childhood trauma, and moral dilemmas. Reflecting on social inequity, the novel's Japan is rife with class rigidity and distrust, birthing Ryoji and Yukiho's tragedy from their inescapable origins. This resonates today, with Japan's 2022's low-desire society pushing youth to lie flat or, in extreme cases, to crime, like a 2021 Tokyo case. Can a fair society give everyone a chance to rise? The shadow of childhood trauma. Ryoji and Yukiho's violent, loveless childhoods shaped their bond. Psychologist Mika Yamamoto notes trauma's lasting impact on trust and emotions. Their story asks, how can we help those haunted by childhood shadows? Can society and families offer more warm, moral gray zones? Ryoji and Yukiho blur good and evil, being both victims and perpetrators. A 2015 Japanese case saw a woman hide her husband's crimes to protect her family, only to spiral into sin. The novel reminds us morality is rarely clear, prompting us to weigh self versus others in choices. Lessons from relationships. Ryoji and Yukiho's bond, dependent yet distant, questions the nature of intimacy. Have we sacrificed ourselves for others or lost ourselves in dependence? The novel suggests true intimacy requires equality and honesty, not one-sided sacrifice or control. The novel's themes transcend Japan, touching global issues of class divides and inequity. In the 2020s, widening wealth gaps in the West push the marginalized to illegal means, echoing Ryoji and Yukiho. How can we build a more inclusive world where all can pursue happiness? Conclusion. From Midnight Sun to a mirror of humanity. Journey Under the Midnight Sun is more than a thriller, it's a mirror of human complexity. Ryoji and Yukiho's tale reveals fate's cruelty and humanity's depth. They walk in the midnight sun, each other's light and prisoner. Higashino's cool prose unveils a truth. There's no pure good or evil, only souls wrestling with circumstance and choice. The novel urges us to examine our own lives. Do social inequities, childhood wounds, or moral dilemmas cast shadows in us? Their choices may be extreme, but their struggles are universal. How do we find redemption in our own darkness? Higashino said, "Everyone has their own midnight sun. The question is how you face it." For readers, this novel is both a suspenseful ride and a call to self-reflection. Ryoji and Yukiho's bond makes us ponder dependence and sacrifice in relationships. Their crimes urge us to consider society's role in shaping individuals. Their tragedy reminds us to cherish every flicker of light in life. Whether in daylight or darkness, remember, fate may be fickle, but the power to choose is always yours.